No reportable action. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay. If everyone would please join me. First, we will, Councilmember Doby will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, and Councilmember Hibbard will lead us in the invocation.
All right, right hands over your heart, ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Little voices.
Heavenly Father, we come before you tonight, and we are grateful to live in such a country with all the freedoms that we have. We're thankful for the city of Los Alamitos. I pray a blessing over tonight's meeting, over the discussions that we'll have. Thank you for our staff. Thank you for our council members. Thank you for our residents. Lord God, is it a blessing to be here tonight? We pray this in the name of Jesus. Amen.
Okay. First, we have presentations. And let's see here. We have Amber and Tony Tran. If you guys want to come up here, right up here. Okay, Amber and Tony Tran were part of our Business Spotlight for this month. For those of you who don't know the Business Spotlight, we select a business, or they apply and we select a business, and we try to, we make a visit to the business, we prepare a video, we try to educate the public on what the business does and the services they offer, and we try to promote their business. She's waving at you. And this month's recognized business is Formula Fitness. And the owners here are Amber and Tony Tran. Formula Fitness takes on an innovative, client-first approach to health and wellness. It's more than a personal training. We focus on your whole health, stress management, sleep routines, diet, nutrition, and fitness goals. Formula Fitness is the product of decades of expertise and passion for transforming lives. Fitness director and owner Tony Tran got his start in the fitness industry in 2003. Tony excelled at his craft and as a coveted personal trainer, garnering dedicated clients who continue to train with us to this day. And with that, I'll allow you to say a few words about your business.
Thank you, Mayor. And you can find our business on Baum Bloomfield in Los Alamitos. We're right next to a 7-Eleven and a Chase Bank. And you can also find some information at our website, formulafitness.co.
Perfect. And then here's just a sneak peek of the video that we created. Well, yeah, you'll get to see it. That's just the highlight reel, and okay, sorry about that. Didn't work, but thank you very much for participating. We hope that it helps you out, and thanks again for coming and accepting your certificate. We appreciate it. Thank you. If anybody's interested in the program, the information is on the city website. So thanks again. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys. All right, take care. It's good to see you again. Okay. Okay, next presentation. This is the introduction to the newest additions to the Los Alamitos Police Department Volunteers in Policing Program, the VIP program. Go, Chief, take it away.
I'm going to go ahead and delegate this one to Robert Acosta, who's going to come up and introduce our newest members.
Thank you, Chief. And I would have delegated this to Belinda Roman, but she's not available tonight, so you got stuck with me. So, like you said, I'm here to introduce our newest VIP members. We just got 3 through backgrounds, and they start their training program tomorrow. I'm sure you've heard enough about them, but their value has been felt so much. We internally and also externally. We sent one of our more seasoned VIPs to Seal Beach yesterday to help out with the crowd, the celebrants of St. Patrick's Day. We just, like I said, I couldn't be more proud of this group than anything so far. So we now have a total, with the 3 newest VIP members, we now have a total of 3. They reference themselves as the Magnificent Seven, if you remember that movie.
Yes.
Talented group. They all have very good work backgrounds, but the 3 of them are, if you want to come up, is Debbie Charland. She's a CERT member. She worked at Northrop as an executive there until she retired. The other one is Kathy Gardner. She was worked at Los Angeles and the Long Beach Harbors as a longshoreman, and then retired as a longshore clerk. And then Bruce Murphy, who I'm sure you're all familiar with, he was a small business owner. He's an avid volunteer in our community. He volunteers at St. Hedwig, at St. Isidore, and now with the city of Los Alamitos. So, and he's part of our traffic commission, which that's where you probably know him best. But anyway, very, very professional group. They're added to our existing VIPs, and if you ever see them around town, make sure you take a moment to say thank you to them all. That'd be great. I'd like to invite you guys down for a picture with them. That'd be great. There you go.
Okay. Okay, next on the agenda, we have a presentation to the City of Los Alamitos from Jenny Worsham, California Park and Recreation Society Vice President, in recognition of receiving the Creating Community Award of Excellence in Economic Vitality for Celebrate Los Alamitos. Thank you, Jenny.
Hi. My name is Jenny Worsham, and as you said, I am the Vice President of the California Parks and Recreation Society, CPRS. I want to congratulate the City of Los Alamitos on receiving the CPRS Celebrating Community Award of Excellence in Economic Vitality. The CPRS State Award Program is an annual award program that celebrates outstanding examples of quality facility and park design, programming accomplishments, effective communications, community leadership, and professional successes that take place daily in our profession. This award recognizes outstanding initiatives by agencies, departments, or districts in their effort to deliver the highest level of recreation and leisure programs and services that embody and embrace the values and mission of the profession and move the agency towards a stronger position or role within the community. The third annual Celebrate Los Al event is a demonstration of effective collaboration, innovation, resourcefulness, and economic and community engagement. This event evolved from a one-week celebration to a one-day celebration. The results included a tripled event attendance and accomplished citywide goals and objectives in economic vitality, community gathering, local business, in nonprofit awareness, downtown revitalization, law enforcement presence and engagement, honoring local veterans, providing health and wellness activities, offering safe community events and activities, and celebrating the rich history of Los Alamitos in continuing old and new traditions in the community. Wow, that is a lot for one day. This event provides a realistic model for all cities to execute a dynamic downtown event that engages all facets of the community. This is the highest honor bestowed upon CPRS, and I would like to invite the City of Los Alamitos Mayor Jordan Nafolda and all city department representatives to receive this award tonight, which shows true collaboration and teamwork and a great example for all cities. Congratulations.
You just don't want to be by yourself.
I got a picture I can screen share real quick.
Oh, that's pretty.
Okay, the final presentation tonight is from Michael Ballier from City Green Consulting President regarding SB 1383 organic waste reduction. Mr. Ballier, if you want to come forward.
Mr. Mayor, I just wanted to say before we begin that Mr. Ballier is here at the request of the council, obviously wanting to receive more information about, SB 1383 and any updates that have happened since our program has been enacted.
Okay, thank you.
Michael Ballier here to talk to you about SB 1383. Basically, that is the most extensive solid waste legislation the state has passed since 1989. That's when they passed AB 939 that required everyone to reduce waste going to landfills by 50%. This regulation focuses on organic waste, food, green waste, which would be landscape trimmings, as well as paper products like cardboard. So basically, the state did a study in 2014 and determined these percentages of materials were landfilled, about 27 million tons of organic waste. The goal is to reduce that by 75% by 2025. So that's about 20 million tons of material. Where SB 1383 is different than AB 939 is that it is not a city-specific goal. We as a whole, as a state, have to reduce the waste, or the state will produce more stringent guidelines. As a result, the regulations are very prescriptive. There's things that the city has to do rather than, hey, do whatever you want, just hit the goal. So basically, To summarize, the city has to provide organic waste collection for all generators. You have to establish an edible food recovery program that's capable of increasing edible food donations by 20%. You need to conduct annual education and outreach to all generators, residents, businesses. There are procurement requirements. The state requires the city to purchase materials like mulch, compost, and when markets are available, energy products that come from recycled organic waste. You also have to do capacity planning, basically securing capacity to process this new food waste that you're recycling, and also capacity to handle that increase in edible food donations. So what I'd like to do is go back in time, because really the state had two precursor regulations. The first was AB 341, Assembly Bill 341, that basically mandated every business that had 4 cubic yards of waste or more per week had to have a recycling program. The city was in compliance with that early on. You had a material recovery facility that your hauler Republic Services used, and that was considered a compliant program. The other program was Assembly Bill 1826 that required businesses that generated 4 cubic yards or more of organic waste had to have a food waste recycling program in place. The first part of that regulation was the city had to adopt a program. And I think what the city did at the time was very prescient, and it worked out well, and it showed its commitment not only to compliance, but also to the ratepayers. Your hauler at the time, Republic Services, proposed a program to service what would have been 10 to 15 businesses for a $217,000 cost. It basically would have required an 8.2% increase to all rates to pay for this program. The council at the time did not accept that. There was some pressure brought on by the state over the months that negotiations went on, saying, hey, you have to adopt a program. The city held firm, and then in December of 2017 finally got a program. That was less than half the proposed price, and it was basically just charging the folks that were mandated to have the program, not subsidizing rates. So from there, we went into going out to all the businesses that were under this program. And by January of 2019, 12 of the 13 businesses that had to have the recycling programs were compliant. In 2019, the state then added a whole other level of businesses because we didn't reach our 50% landfill reduction goal as a state. So now every business had to be visited. We found 275 that qualified for waivers. They didn't generate over half a cubic yard of food waste per week. We then established 20 programs, and we're fairly close to compliance. The decision was made that the city would then go out to bid for a new hauler, and that's when additional regulations were finally approved by the state for SB 1383. So what the city did in 2021 was quite a lot of heavy lifting. We completely revised the city code dealing with solid waste to adopt all SB 1383 requirements into the city code. That's one of the regulations. The city developed a new franchise agreement that would require whatever hauler was selected through their selection process would implement 100% of the required programs, would provide things like mulch and compost for the city at no additional charge. The procurement of RNG when available is also part of that. The city also adopted a compliant procurement policy for SB 1383. And basically, at that point in time, we were in place with everything. We then went through an extensive interview process for a new hauler. Originally, 9 firms responded to the RFP, ultimately 7 bid, and we went through that process to get us with Universal Waste, which is your hauler now, and immediately upon them taking over the franchise in 22 and 23, you can see the city's 100% compliant, both residentially and commercially, with the provision of programs requirement in the regulation. We also partnered with Food Finders. There's a slide for them later, so I haven't forgotten about them, but they're a local nonprofit that works with a bunch of food banks and pantries, and they are the city's partner in the edible food program. All Tier 1 generators, the large ones that were required to have programs in 2022 did, so we're compliant there. We met all our education and outreach goals to the generators. Procurement, as I mentioned, the city gets 100 cubic yards per year of either compost or mulch, city's choice, from Universal Waste. And when their facility in Los Angeles opens, the new one where they control the Oryx system, then you can start getting RNG credit for the fuel used in their vehicles. I mentioned AB 1985 because the state's procurement goals were found to be unreachable. The initial 0.08 tons per resident per year. So AB 1985 basically relaxed those guidelines to only 30% of that total. In 2022, it's up to 65% in 2024. And then, of course, planning and capacity studies. We secured 100% of required capacity for organic waste through Universal Waste facilities. And then through Food Finders, we secured 100% capacity of the edible food donations. In 2024, what we're working on now is your implementation record. The state requires everything to do with your programs to be housed in one location, available for at any time inspection. Part of that is adopting different protocols, including inspection and enforcement. The state viewed 22 and 23 as kind of a kinder, gentler, hey, implement your programs, educate people. 2024 is when enforcement starts, and really because the state is focused on you doing everything that's prescribed, they have the ability to fine jurisdictions that don't follow every bit of SB 1383. So again, part of that is having a policy. If somebody's out of compliance, this is how the city will deal with them. We're 100% compliance with regards to participation in the program, but potentially contamination issues if somebody's not putting the right thing in the right container, which is actually easier in Los Alamitos than every other city in the county. But I'll get to that later. The city has to have a program in place for dealing that. So that's part of what we're putting together. There's a whole new tier of edible food generators. These are smaller businesses than the tier ones, which are food manufacturers and supermarkets that fall under the regulation this year. We've been out to all of them. We've provided them educational materials. We've also synced them up with Food Finders, and we expect all of them to be in compliance here shortly. There's 3 left that aren't. All your schools are negotiating their agreement and about ready to start, so we're doing great there. And we have another procurement study with the county. It's every 2 years, so that's coming up. So again, selecting Universal Waste put Los Alamitos in 100% compliance for residents. You have 3 carts in that system: trash, recycling, typical dry recyclables, and then food waste and green waste go in the green cart for organics. Through the competitive bidding, your rate was $13.90. It was since raised 18 months later. That was another thing that was negotiated by the city, is for them to freeze rates until January of this year. So your rate went up to $14.60 a month. As a frame of reference, the next lowest city in Orange County is Lake Forest. They charge $19.70 a month for the residential rate, and your rate is actually $10.53 per month less than the county average. So you have a very good rate and 100% compliance on the residential side. And again, the city negotiated a 5% cap. Regardless of what inflation does, the hauler cannot raise rates more than 5% in any given year. Now, on the commercial side, you have a unique program. At the time the city adopted it, you were the only city in Orange County to go with the 2-cart program. So what Universal Waste proposed is to use a technology called the Oryx system. It had been tested and approved by County of LA and Cal Recycle. It basically takes a mixture of trash and food waste, shreds it, and then presses it to remove the liquid content, which is about 80% on average of the weight of that material. So it met the state's guidelines. It was an approved technology, and that was what Universal featured in their proposal. So the advantages to the business community: they don't have to pay for 3 carts. They don't have to separate food waste into another cart. And the advantage for the city in that you have to monitor and enforce the regulations. If somebody is putting food in the wrong container, now you have to send them a notice, you have to track, make sure they're not contaminating, and fine them. You've avoided all of that. That's particularly a challenge in a lot of cities with multifamily properties. I work with about 1/3 of the cities in Orange County, and that's a real challenge because there's constant turnover. You may have 8 people that live in a complex, and then one family moves out, and the new family that moves in starts throwing trash in the food waste container, and now it's a contamination issue. So anyways, it's a effective program. It gives you 100% compliance. It's state approved, and it's much cheaper and more convenient for your businesses, as shown by your rates in that area. Again, you have the lowest rate for residents in the county. Usually that would suggest a higher resident or commercial rate to augment that. That's not the case. Your 3-yard rate once a week, which is like the standard comparison tool, a 3-yard bin, it's $141 a month. That's the 6th lowest in the county, but keep in mind every other business has to also subscribe to a food waste recycling cart in every other city in Orange County. When you factor that in, you have the 3rd lowest commercial rate in the county. Lowest residential, 3rd lowest, 100% compliance. You're one of the few cities in Orange County. In fact, I work with 11. None of them are 100% compliant with all the program rollout. So you're doing very well. And again, the rate stability applies to the commercial sector as well. It has that 5% cap in place. Again, I mentioned Food Finders. They're a great organization. They're based now in Los Alamitos. They're on Humboldt Street, and they provide soup to nuts. They provide the written contract that the state requires free of charge to any business that is required to have one. They keep records, which is the other requirement on the business, on how much they donate. They'll come out on a regular schedule. They'll come out on call. They're wonderful to work with, and they, again, provide a free resource to your business community to be 100% compliant with state law. Again, we're dealing with the Tier 2 generators now, and I have every confidence that that will be in place here shortly. So with that, I will answer any questions you have. My presentation, the electronic version, has a lot more detail in the notes to it, so hopefully that'll answer some, but I'm available for any questions you have.
Thank you for your presentation. Although I wasn't one of the council members that asked for this presentation, last year the county sent out a postcard with some information that was conflicting with what we were putting out as a city, so we really appreciate this clarification because we were kind of straddling what we should be doing, what we should be communicating to the public. So thank you for your presentation. Sure. One of the questions that I did have was, as far as enforcement or inspection, who's doing the inspections of these facilities to make sure that they're actually processing the waste how it should be?
Well, there's a few types of inspections. So one of them is in your agreement. You have to do route reviews to make sure that people are not putting, for example, in your city, the businesses aren't putting recyclables in the trash, and then the residential with the 3 carts that food waste isn't in the trash. So that's a contractual obligation of Universal Waste. Inspections of edible food generators, that's what my firm helps the city with. We have to go out to them once a year and make sure they're handling their food properly for donations, that they have that written agreement in place, and that they're keeping records. With regards to other inspections of the facilities, starting, I think it was 3 years ago, Cal Recycle used to get all its funding from the landfills. and then they expanded it to include recycling facilities. So now we have a recycling and disposal monitoring system that the state has. So by their permits and also by their designation by the state, that determines if they are compliant for that processing activity. So for example, the old program you had with the Republic, where you put your trash and your recyclables in the same container, that now requires a high diversion organic waste facility designation for that to count as a program. That's why everybody kind of went away from that. So all your facilities we do an annual data request notice to the hauler that they have to fill out that lets us know exactly what facility they're using, what its RDRS number is, and the acceptable materials. So then we can compare that to the state to make sure that it's approved for that type of activity. So I guess we're monitoring it every year using the state's monitoring system as our backstop.
Is it all self-reported by the trash service?
The facility operator has to report the tons it receives, processes, and disposes to the state as part of the reporting system. So yes, it is self-reported in that regard. But again, you're dealing with a state system that's tracking every location, including the landfills. So it's very difficult to put out phony numbers because the material has to go somewhere. And usually these facilities process through all the material received in a day because they'll have a new batch coming that following day.
As far as the inspections, Chet, did we inspect anything last year, this year? What kind of record keeping have we done or will we do once we start?
I'll have to defer to Mr. Ballier and then to Director Noda on that, but I will say this, that there's been I think a very concerted effort to get in front of the businesses, not just now, but before all of this legislation went into act, because we didn't want anyone being caught off guard. So the idea was to make as much of the knowledge, as much of the rules out there for everyone, and know that there's been a number of different, just kind of, I'll call them working groups that have talked about this issue. Mr. Ballier or Ron, if you want to step in and take that one.
Well, as far as there's quarterly reporting required of universal waste. So every quarter they have to let us know, actually it's 6 different areas of reporting: compliance with delivery of programs, compliance with delivery of education, route reviews, temporary service hauling, and then tonnages and facilities used. So we have them report the landfill facilities, the processing facilities for recyclables, and the processing facilities for organic waste. Then we use that record to basically compare it to what the state says with their annual report. And if you've been following this at all, that RDRS system has had a lot of issues with orphaned waste. So for example, the state can't find where this waste came from. They'll assign it to a jurisdiction, and you have to have your records in order to say, hey, this isn't our waste. We've tracked everything. You're saying this came from, wherever. So again, record keeping is a big part of this. And again, in the implementation record, it's not just the tonnages and the facilities, but every copy of waivers that the city's issued, every inspection that's done, all of those records are housed in one location. So we do fairly extensive record keeping, and again, the hauler has to provide that material. We also audited them on their records, I think it was July of last year, just to go through all of the numbers that they reported to us. And we did find some small discrepancies, under 3%, but we did verify that. So we're trying to stay on top of it.
Yeah. If I were to put my green waste in my blue recycle bin, who will come knocking on my door?
Well, again, the route review provision of SB 1383 did not establish a maximum. It basically said you don't have to flip every container, you have to do a representative sample. So there's no minimum, there's no maximum. They just said you don't have to check every container. So what most cities did is somewhere between 2 and 5% as far as random sampling, and that's actually going out and flipping the lid. So
And that's UWS?
that's UWS that does that lid flipping. So again, it's doubtful that you would be caught the first time you did it, but I think eventually you might. And again, what we would do is send you a notice, and under the regulations, you have 60 days to comply, and more education material goes out. But yeah, it's impossible to check,
Sure.
every container every week.
Sure. And then Chet, maybe you can help me with this one. He just spoke to education material. A few of my neighbors in the Highlands, they received that postcard from the county that kind of received conflicting information that what we were putting out. Have we put anything out that aligns with what the county put out with the presentation? Or do we have anything available that I can then direct those residents to?
So we talked about this a little bit internally about when exactly our next round of, I'll call it public education, will go out on this. And so I think that that's a great opportunity for us to actually, first of all, put out a definitive answer once and for all to everybody. And that'll be in the form of a mailer.
Great. Thank you.
Okay.
Well, I just want to say I appreciate your presentation. I'm one of the council members who's very interested in finding out, just making sure that my disposal of organic materials as well as food and paper was properly put into any of the waste receptacles that I'm provided. My question is, what is the fine amount for residential or improper disposal of materials in any of the receptacles, as well as for the commercial businesses? And is there financial impact for the city if that should occur when audited?
Well, the way the regulations are written, there are specifics as far as penalties. So if somebody gets to the point where you levy a fine for not implementing a program or contamination, it's $50 to $100 for the first offense, $100 to $200 for the second offense, and then $250 to $500 for the third offense. Again, there is a notice and warning policy and education phase. So it's not like somebody's going to go out and flip somebody's lid and say, here's your $50 fine. No, they're going to be notified. And again, one of the things that the city negotiated with the hauler was kind of a 3 strikes on their route review inspection. So the first time it happened, they'll actually send a little notice, hey, did you know, here's where you're supposed to put things. If it happens again, they'll send them another notice, and then on the third time, the hauler can actually charge a contamination fee. But as far as the city and the city issuing fines, again, that's that $50 minimum. And if the city doesn't, if the city is aware of a non-compliant situation, doesn't follow up on it, ultimately the state can fine the city amount that it determines appropriate. The cap on the state is $10,000 a day, so you don't want to go down that road. So luckily we're very compliant. So slim and none are I think the chances of the state fining us. But we do need to jump through that hoop of, if we do get a complaint, if we are made aware of a violation, that we do send a notice out and follow up.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
Can I ask Mike, we receive a I'm right here, Mike, Ron.
I need my glasses.
Yeah, we received a Cal Recycle grant, upwards of 75,000. If we, as a city, are not compliant, we do not receive that grant as well, correct?
Yeah, you have to jump through some hoops to be able to apply for it, and then if you're out of compliance, that could impact your ability for receipt of grant funds.
I just had one quick question. I know when we negotiated the trash contract a few years ago, one of the big selling items was identification of processing facilities. There was one in Carson. There were certain things, and some waste haulers didn't have one. Some were being built. And one of the selling points with UWS is that was already identified. I know that there was a large organic waste processing facility that claimed bankruptcy this last year out in Rialto. Is that affecting any other processing facilities?
No, right now, the 24th Street facility in Los Angeles that Universal is building, that should be opening anytime now. They're using the Sun Valley facility, which is owned by Waste Management. That's where the Oryx machine is that's processing your equipment. And again, they have written capacity guarantees for that, so that hasn't impacted. And then thirdly, while other cities are starting to go with the two-cart program that weren't before, that's a written guarantee of that capacity. So I think you're set for that.
Yeah, I know that was one of the reasons that our rates were so low, because they'd already had that identified. And I just didn't know, because it's RBF, and I know these sound like they're quite large. So I don't know what the fallout is to other facilities that are going to have to take up that.
It hasn't impacted us, and again, there's new players coming in, so I think it'll be offset.
Okay, thank you.
No, I was going to ask about the grant funding, because I'm always fascinated by grant funding, but it was answered, so just thank you for your presentation. I appreciate your time.
Thanks very much, everybody.
Thank you.
Again, you have my contact information and more details on that, so just let us know if there's more questions.
Thank you.
I do not. Thank you. Next up, we have oral communications. At this time, any individual in the audience may come forward to speak on any item within the subject matter jurisdiction of the City Council. Remarks are to be limited to not more than 5 minutes per speaker. I can see there's nobody in the audience.
I know.
Well,
Mr. Acosta, do you have any announcements?
that wants to come up. Okay, updates from the mayor. We have our spring carnival coming up. Join us for the Memorial Care Miller Children's and Women's Hospital Long Beach Spring Carnival presented by CalOptima Health on Saturday, March 30th at Little Cottonwood Park. This popular and free event will run from 9:30 a.m. to 12 p.m. There will be many activities to enjoy, including egg hunts, a photo area with Peter Rabbit, carnival games, vendor booths, inflatables, face painters, balloon twisters, and live music. Egg hunts will be separated into age groups, and the schedule can be found on the city's website at www.cityoflosalamitos.org. This time, updates from the staff. Do you have anything, Chet?
Thanks, sir. I have a couple, actually. First, I'd like to turn it over to Ron Noda. He has an update, and then we'll just go right down to the next director, Noda, right after that.
Thank you. Again, good evening, council, mayor, and city council. I want to remind you and the community that we have our event, Good Morning Los Alamitos, next Tuesday at 9 a.m. at the Community Center 2 building. It's, again, a forum where business owners, property owners, and residents of the city can come in to interact with city staff to learn on what's going on in the community. Every department will be there to facilitate or answer any questions. The big topic for next week is our economic development study that council is aware of. We want to ask the residents their input on economic development and the future of Los Alamitos in that. Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, and members of the City Council. We would like to invite the community out to the UWS Race on the Base. We are returning to Race on the Base, and that is on Saturday, April 13th. It is a 5K run, walk, and a reverse triathlon, and you can register at www.raceonthebaselosal.com.
And council, actually, I'm going to turn it over to the chief, and I'll finish up after that.
All right. Let's see. Today was Congresswoman Michelle Steele Day. So we started out the morning with the law enforcement roundtable meeting. Then after lunch, it was the business roundtable. And then in the afternoon time or evening time, it was the 2024 Women of Distinction Awards, which are nominated the CEO for the Casa Youth Shelter, who ended up receiving one of the Women of Distinction Awards, along with somebody from the base. So somebody was nominated on the JFTB, who also received an award. So that was nice for a couple members of the council to join us there for that award ceremony. So I wanted to say thank you. Let's see, I have an update from the Orange County Auto Theft Task Force. So here with the Los Alamitos Police Department, we've had the luxury of the council approving one of the overhire positions, which we were able to get funded through the CHP via the DMV to have a detective assigned to the Orange County Auto Theft Task Force. I wanted to share some of the information that they disseminated to us in their recently released quarterly report for the fourth quarter of 2023. During that quarter, they recovered 70 stolen vehicles, had an approximate value of just over $2.2 million. They made 22 arrests as a result of 88 investigations. And their investigations have covered a wide array. Now, yes, it is the Orange County Auto Theft Task Force, but they give a recap of some of the highlights of the unit's activity throughout the quarter. And believe it or not, there's actually one of their investigations that was in the city of Los Alamitos. But before I highlight that event, I wanted to kind of share the broad range that the Orange County Auto Theft Task Force reaches in their investigations. We have Foster City Police Department in Northern California, Newport Beach, Westminster, as I mentioned, Los Alamitos. We have San Bernardino County, Laredo, Texas, Garden Grove, of stolen vehicles being sold on OfferUp. We had one that was transported from Buena Park to the city of New Orleans, another one from Mojave County Sheriff's Office in Arizona, and another in Henderson, Nevada. And the last one here, no, not the last one, Mission Viejo, City of Cypress, Roseville Police Department in Northern California, and finally in Temecula. So the one that is in Los Alamitos, I'll try to share the nuggets of that investigation. On October 10th of 2023, Los Alamitos PD were contacted in regards to Mr. C's towing. They had two unauthorized suspects inside the tow yard. Officers located a parked black 2019 Audi S3 with two suspects inside. The two suspects possessed a key fob that belonged to a recovered stolen Mercedes that was being held for evidence by the CHP inside the tow yard. Two suspects were arrested. OCAT investigators were contacted due to the suspects being involved in organized auto theft. OCAT investigators later determined that the black Audi S3 was a VIN switch that was valued just over $39,000. 9 days later, OCAT investigators assisted the CHP with a search warrant for the residence of one of the suspects that was found in the driver's seat of the black Audi S3. At the scene of the search warrant, another stolen Mercedes was recovered, along with numerous personal items and identifying information of victims. Same time, OCAT investigators were contacted regarding the fraudulent registered owner of the Audi S3. OCAT investigators ultimately responded and arrested two additional suspects for that auto theft. While at that scene, they identified a 2022 Chevy Silverado valued at $68,000 to be another VIN switch. And during the interview of those two suspects, they received admissions to two additional VIN-switched vehicles that were sold to CarMax. And one of those two vehicles, a VIN-switched 2023 Toyota 4Runner, was valued at just over $37,800. That was later recovered. And so I just wanted to share my appreciation to the council for allowing us to have that opportunity to have an overhire that is funded by the state, but is able to gain value back to the city of Los Alamitos. So thank you.
Thank you, Chief. And I just wanted to add a clarification. So as you all know, we have a sponsorship for our Spring Festival through Cal Optima. There seems to be some confusion about whether or not Cal Optima may have pulled out of their relationship with the hospital. It turns out that they have canceled their contracts with four hospitals, West Anaheim, Garden Grove Medical Center, La Palma Intercommunity Hospital, and Huntington Beach Hospital. That being said, they do plan to continue their relationship with the Los Al Center, even with the transition to UCI. We've had I think, a very fruitful initial conversation with their CEO about what exactly we might look at in the future as certain partnerships. One of them is actually the siting of a PACE center, which is a building where they actually operate all of their services out of, and possibly having that located in Los Alamitos. That obviously would be a big coup for us, given the fact that approximately 30% of our residents would qualify for Cal Optima at the end of the day. I did want to thank the mayor for leading those negotiations with their CEO, and we're looking forward to seeing what exactly we might be able to partner with them on in the coming months. And with that, thank you, Mayor.
I apologize, but I did forget one item.
Yes, you did. Sorry, it's near and dear to my heart, so I'm glad he's going to bring it up.
So we do have a modification coming to Los Alamitos Police Department policy and procedure that relates to personal appearance. So we did a 90-day trial period for a beard and tattoo policy. Within, I think we were 2 months into our trial period when I went to a West County Chiefs meeting and found out there were 4 additional agencies in Orange County that are also about to initiate their beard and tattoo policy trial period as well. Now that ours has concluded, we will be making a modification which will allow our officers to have beard and exposed tattoos under very strict regulations. It has helped the morale within the police department. It is a recruitment and retention tool, and we've also received some positive feedback from members of the community that have attended community events where they have seen the officers who do now have a beard or exposed tattoos. Just wanted to advise everybody in case you see it in the future.
I do want to this may seem like a small thing, but at the end of the day, providing, I guess, rules and regulations that allow for us to actually go out and compete for each and every individual that we would like to see inside of our police department is important. I commend the chief for, looking at the, everything, and then even the unorthodox things that are going to help us actually retain officers. So thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'll be honest, I haven't shaved since 2005. I mean, I trim, but a razor has not touched my face since 2005, so I can appreciate that. Let's see, we have the warrants. Now, the attached warrants contain checks and electronic fund transfers from February 1st, 2024 to February 29th, 2024. I know per our accelerated warrant policy, we've had a chance to review and ask questions. So if there are any further questions, those questions will be noted and then answered or followed up after the meeting. So is there any further questions?
I was wondering the make and model of the patrol rifles we purchased.
That is a great question because Sergeant Kroc, who is our armor and a gun enthusiast, did research on multiple different models before selecting the one he did, and I do not have that off the top of my head, but I will get that to you before this council meeting is over.
Okay.
Anything else? Okay, can I get a motion?
A couple other things. We spent $25,000 in office furniture this past year, and I was wondering how many years are we depreciating that?
We can look that issue up and get you an answer on it.
Okay, wonderful. One of the issues I've been having in council meetings is I ask for information and I don't end up getting it. Wendy, is there a way that you can enter that into the minutes that I'm making this request?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. A couple of other ones. It looks like 5 ACFR books were purchased last month. What do I need to do to get a copy of one of those books?
There's an electronic copy on the website.
Can I get a copy of that as well?
Sure.
Thank you. Wendy, will you enter that as well? There's 3 more. Let's see. We also have a $5,200 expenditure to our housing element consultant. And I'd like to see the invoice for that item, being that our housing element was already passed. Can I get a copy of that invoice for that housing element?
Are we providing copies of invoices? I wasn't sure that we...
You'll have to let me
Continue that.
go back and look and see what exactly if this is something that can be found with relative ease, or if it's something that we will have to go through and manually search for.
Okay, let me see, I'll get that information for you. If it helps to look it up, it's on page 15 of the staff report.
Thank you.
Okay, it'll be noted, and we can just follow up on that. So what's the last one?
Let's see. There's about a $32,000 expenditure to a Harris and Associates for something called the Lampson Peer Review. What was the deliverable for this expenditure?
We can provide that answer in the course of providing these other questions.
Okay. Wendy, can you also specifically address that one as well, that I'm requesting that? And then the last one is, there's about a $12,000 expenditure for an interim finance manager, and I was wondering about how much longer are we expecting to use the outside service, and if we're looking to hire that position from within?
That again it's a question that we can get you an answer to. It's just off the top of my head, this is a stopgap to get ourselves to a position where we can actually find a qualified individual. We've been out to recruit for this position many times and have yet to find somebody that we think is qualified to fill the position.
Okay, and just for a matter of public record, about how many days do you need to provide this information to me?
I will have to go back and see what exactly it's going to take in order to pull up each piece of that information. Again, in the interest of, we can speed up this process too if these questions are given to us beforehand. We can have an answer before we get to the actual council meeting.
Okay, I just want to clarify, because I was under the impression that invoices are not being provided to council members. So is that true, or can we still request invoices or backup documentation?
I will try to provide as much information as I can in order to get you to a place of comfort about your question.
Okay, so we are providing invoices?
No, it's more that I can provide an explanation as to what exactly the invoice was for.
Okay, and does the city of Los Alamitos take the position that council members will be provided with financial documentation to support our expenditures?
I'm not sure if I follow your question.
I'm asking for an invoice because I'm not sure what we're spending these dollars on, so I'd like to see instead of an email with narrative, I'd like to see an actual invoice. Is it the city's position that we provide council members with that?
That is council policy that we do not.
We do not. And what policy was that?
It's action that the council was asked whether or not they agreed with that policy, and there was no voice of opposition.
And what was the date of that?
I couldn't tell you.
And was there a vote taken?
No, but it was the issue that actually led us to having a warrant policy in the first place.
So there was no vote taken, and it's a policy based on no vote.
I think that it's very common that in my role as city manager, will say that absent hearing voices of opposition on this, I intend to do things this way. And that has stood for the last, I want to say, at least 4 months.
Okay, just want to be clear that the city of Los Alamitos does not provide financial documentation to city council members upon request. Thank you.
I don't think that was the answer that was given, but this is something that can be taken care of. This is why we are provided the warrants ahead of time. If there are any questions pending, those should be asked during that time. I understand what you're doing. You're trying to make a record in terms of what you would like the public to know, and that's fine. But I think these are types of things that should be addressed initially beforehand, and if there's no resolution, then you can proceed forward. But I'm sure this is a conversation that's better suited off the record. So with that, can I get a motion and a second?
I'll move it.
I'll second.
Can I get a roll call vote?
Mayor Nafolda,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Hasselbrink,
Aye.
Councilmember Doby,
Aye.
Councilmember Hibbard,
No.
Councilmember Murphy.
No, in good conscience, I can't when I cannot receive or review invoices, statements, or any type of financial records to confirm the accuracy of the expenses that are being incurred.
You can move on.
Okay, now we have the consent calendar. All consent calendar items may be acted upon by one motion unless a council member requests separate action on a specific item. Would anybody like to pull an item? Okay,
I would like to pull 12A, please, as an alpha.
To clarify, 11A, correct?
No, 12.
We're on 11, consent calendar.
So we're not reviewing the whole thing to pull any specific agenda item?
So 11A is consent calendar items. They all go as one. Once we get to 12A, that is a workshop discussion.
Okay, I apologize. Thank you.
I'll move the calendar.
okay, can I get a okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, item 12, workshop discussion. This is a mid-year general fund budget review and financial update for fiscal year 2023 and 2024.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And before I turn it over to Craig, I just want to say that this is a review of where exactly we are at mid-year. Obviously, there's been some changes in terms of how exactly different funds are trending with regards to revenues that have come in. But all in all, I'm comfortable with where we are in terms of our overall budget. That being said, there are or have been items that have been approved by the city council in terms of our just day-to-day operations. And at this point, we'll be asking for appropriations in order to see that money actually find its way into the budget. And with that, I'll turn it over to Craig.
Thank you, Chet. Good evening, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, Council, and staff. Tonight, I'll be presenting the City Council workshop on the mid-year general fund budget review financial update for fiscal year 23-24. Staff met with the Budget Standing Committee on March 11th to discuss and review the mid-year budget. We provided projections for fiscal 23-24 and provided an overview of the requests for the additional appropriations that were referenced. As a reminder, City adopted a balanced budget on June 20th, 2023. The estimated surplus at that time was $513,000. Since that time, the city has incurred additional infrastructure costs. Mainly, a couple of these areas have been in the recreation roof, the building repairs, street repairs, pothole damage. These are both caused by high seasonal rain, more than the regular average. Other cost, city infrastructure repairs as well have been incurred. In addition, there's been a slowdown in consumer spending, and this was reported as of the latest HDR report, January 18th, that the city received. That was the third quarter of 2023, ending December 23. HDR reported that the sales reflect an 8.1% reduction. Decreases were primarily in business and industry sector. As a reminder, this mid-year report is a snapshot in time. It reflects recorded information through December 31st, and it also is a projection for fiscal 2024 through June 30th, 2024. As an overview, there's a snapshot or a picture of the comparison of budget, actual, and projection for fiscal 23-24 for the revenues. Total revenues that were adopted were about $23.2 million. Actual revenues through 12/31 were about 48%. About $10.1 million, and then the projection for 23-24, the revenues will be should be about $23.8 million. Some notes on these: some revenue categories tracking better than a budget, as Chet alluded to. These will provide an offset to the lower sales tax revenue that the city is going to receive. One of these offsets is the UUT. This reflects an increased utility usage projection, up approximately $450,000 for fiscal year, and it's up 14% over the same time of the prior year. Another area that's increased revenues is use of money or property, which is investment income, tracking positively with strong market projections, approximately up $500,000 for fiscal year 23-24. As a point of reference, the interest recorded for the second quarter, that was through 12/31, the city received $236,000. Other revenue categories tracking less than budget, as reference sales tax and use taxes down 4.2%, Measure Y down 6.6%. This is again due to slowdown in consumer spending. Fines and forfeitures down about 15.8%. This is due to the red camera fines. System was temporarily offline due to a damage to one of the poles. Parking fines, staffing shortage, and recruitment's underway to shore this up. Moving violations, motor patrol is currently vacant. However, both of the parking fines and the staffing and the motor patrol are expected to improve revenue collections once the deployment and the staffing takes place. Comparison of looking at expenditures. This is for fiscal year 23-24 projection. The total expenditures for the adopted budget were $22.7 million. Roughly 47% has been spent through 12/31 at $10.7 million, and then projection for 23-24 at $23.7 million. Expenditures reflect unders and overages. Some additional appropriations are needed. As we referenced, these were mainly included in the budget. We're now just seeking funding for these. One of these is in the administration, city manager, city clerk department, seeking approval for $20,000 for general election. Under the city attorney, seeking approval for additional $30,000 for unbudgeted litigation. Police seeking $168,000 for the Westcom dispatch. This is due to a contract increase that when we adopted the budget, didn't have the final numbers. Development services, seeking approval for $626,000. This is due to two areas: street maintenance, $375,000 for concrete remediation, potholes. Facility maintenance, $251,000. Anticipated expenditures, including PD building improvements. Non-departmental, seeking $300,000. This is for the funding the trust for the UAL that was not budgeted. It was approved by council in November. I was requesting appropriation for 6 months funding through June. And this adds to the already approved ADP funding that was taking place. Both of these will assist the city in reaching its goal for 100% UAL funding. Two funds other than general fund needing additional appropriations. One's the Technology Replacement Fund 53. This additional appropriations requested for technological enhancements of $47,000. This is in connection with the Laserfish for the PD and finance workflow digitation project. Production will enable us to produce retrievable digital records when this is in place. The other fund that's needing a transfer is a transfer from the Economic Development Fund 57 to the general fund, and this will be $200,000 for property assessment and development that's needed. A summary of the appropriations that are needed is this slide. So, general fund, a total of $1.1 million. It's actually $1,144,000. The technology fund, $47,477, and economic development fund transfer to the general fund for $200,000. Projection for 23-24 is an estimate. That's to be, all we know is this time. It's influenced by other factors outside the city's control. One of these could be, downturn in the economy, but it's not projected. The fiscal year 23-24 projection, it reflects a balanced budget as well. Final numbers are not known until the close of the fiscal year, which will be June 30th. So with that, look forward to your questions.
I can just add just a few comments too. So you'll notice that a lot of these requests are actually, especially when it comes to development services, one related directly to the amount of money that we are spending on curbs, gutters, sidewalks and potholes as a result of the amount of rain that we have received. Very happy to say that the team that we have out there is working on these very quickly to identify them and then get them quickly taken care of, which I think is admirable. Not to mention the fact that we soon will have an entire city that has been geo-synced with regards to any trip and fall hazards throughout the town, which I think, again, is worth its weight, especially in terms of risk mitigation. I did want to say, too, that the other bulk of that money with regards to development services is going towards the renovations within the police department. I'm happy to report that we are, I'll call it rounding the bend, so to speak, in terms of what exactly the improvements look like to that building. The next, I think, thing that we have to take on is probably one of the more important areas. It's actually the evidence storage facility and how exactly that is made. I will comment bluntly, right now it is a large cage, not exactly conducive to the best work environments. And so being able to provide something that is better than a 1960s evidence storage facility, I think will be a big boon for our police officers and for the non-sworn staff that work in there. And again, a lot of these items fall in line with what I'll say are actions that have already been approved by the City Council, but are now being transferred in through the budget in order to allow us to expend these funds. Thank you.
Questions?
Yes, I have a few questions. Good evening, Mr. Kohler. I wanted to find out, what was the name of the leading bank that you used as a resource for consumer spending?
Our commercial bank relationship, is that what you're asking?
No, you said, however, recent internal research data from a leading bank.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, that was Bank of America.
Okay. And why was Cal State University Fullerton selected for the resource for economic forecast?
It was just one of the website presentations that was available that I didn't have to attend in person, and it just happened to be in the proper timing that I was able to capture the information.
Were you able to look at any other universities or any other sources of information for that?
Not at this time. Usually I try to get Chapman's or some of the other schools when we come to the actual budget.
I will say too, Councilwoman, that part of our contract with HDL, who is the company that does the sales tax reporting and then also the forecasting for us, they use Beacon Economics as their kind of sounding board with regards to how exactly they develop their projections. And so I just don't want to leave you with the impression that it's just one voice that we are listening to. There are multitude of voices that go into who is actually projecting what in terms of both sales tax and property tax.
I appreciate that, yes, because when you read this, it just states one.
Right.
So it'd be, even if there was some type of reference to further resources will be provided in the future, so it doesn't indicate that there's only one resource that was used to capture the information that you're provided in your discussion.
Noted, and I had forgotten about Beacon. Thank you, Chet.
Also, in regards to the red cameras, it was referenced that they needed repair. When did a red camera require repair?
I'll defer to the chief on that one.
So we ended up having a DUI driver that took out one of the light poles. So once the cameras go down, we lease through a third-party vendor. So the third-party vendor has to coordinate coming out to repair and replace all of the cameras that capture the license plate data when they run the red lights. So during that time that the camera's down, we're not capturing any violations.
Okay, and when was that?
I don't have an exact date in front of me, but it was a couple of months that the camera was down.
Yeah, I think it was May of last year because the man passed away. The one who hit the...
Yes, you're correct. And we also, in addition to that, we're in the process of having additional approaches added to the same intersection, which we're hopeful that will increase the revenue that is being produced by the red light cameras.
Do you have, and what was the cost for when the lights or anything to have it repaired and addressed?
No, that's part of their costs.
That's part of the cost.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's part of their costs.
Okay. In regards to the administration for requests for appropriation of $20,000, what is that for? There wasn't any further details referenced.
That was for the general fund, the general election.
And what about the general election? Could you provide more details to that?
Yeah.
I would defer to the city clerk, but we do have to pay to consolidate our elections with the County of Orange. I'm sorry, is that?
That's correct.
Oh, see, I'm just happy when I get one right every once in a while. Thank you.
Okay. And this includes like the creation, distribution of education materials? Is that what it's for?
No, that's done internally. The county helps us with like our polling locations, the ballots, everything you saw with the primary, they would do for our general municipal election as well.
Okay, and that's what's requiring an additional 20,000 this coming year? Is that what it?
Yeah.
For additional educational materials and such?
Not for the education materials. Again, that's done internally. I guess some of it's education. Is be like for your ballot statements, all the candidate statements. So we don't have to actually print our own ballots. The county will do it for us. So we don't have to man our own polling places. The county does it for us. So it's all that consolidation. This year we have 3 council seats versus the 2 council seats we had last year. So there will be an increase or last election. So there will be an increase in those expenses.
And this is an approximate of 20,000? Will it increase or?
It is an approximate based on how many cities put in measures, how many additional items are on the ballot, the cost will fluctuate. We get that, they have to provide us the numbers 60 days after the election.
Okay, great, thank you. In regards to the city attorney fees, for the additional appropriation of 30,000, is there a way that I can see where there is an increase that would require an additional appropriation of 30,000?
So, Councilmember, it would be inappropriate for me to talk about litigation in an open setting. However, what I can do is if, at the behest of the council, if you'd like to have a review within closed session, I can schedule that at a later date.
I would like that, just to, if it's possible at that time, to review where there was an increase that would require an additional appropriation of $30,000.
Yeah, and I can speak to that briefly without revealing any sort of confidential information. This pertains to the lawsuit filed by the Los Alamitos Luxury Apartments against the city of Los Alamitos, which of course was not expected and remains an ongoing matter that we've briefed in closed session. But if there is a desire to discuss that further and bring that back to closed session, we can certainly do that. But that's absolutely where that additional appropriation is being generated from.
Okay, no, I appreciate that. It's just that this is so ambiguous, it's not providing details, so I do appreciate that you have provided more clarification in regards to that. Thank you. So that is it for me.
Any other questions?
Yeah, I'd like to go back to that the traffic signal thing. Shelley had mentioned that was May. Was that May?
We had a collision, a fatal traffic collision back then. So I know that there was damage done to the intersection at that time. I cannot tell you specifically if it was the red light camera pole or the traffic signal pole at that time. But I can get you the collision that specifically hit the red light camera that had it down for a couple months.
Okay.
I can get you that information.
Yeah,
I just do not have it off the top of my head.
Thank you. Two things. May is our previous fiscal year, so it wouldn't affect this. And then it also strikes me that it would be down for so long. You know, we're
Correct.
paying Red Flex like 10 grand a month.
Correct, because it's an out-of-state third-party vendor, so they have to subcontract the workers to come here, and if they're not tied up, it's whenever their scheduling can come.
Is Red Flex the company that comes out and fixes it, or they're the ones
They-
that look at the cameras?
So they are the company that we contract with, but they'll subcontract some of the actual labor work to be done.
And is that typical, like months?
It varies. It's whenever they can get the subcontractor to come out. And another example of that would be the same process we're running into for having the additional approaches added. It is moving very slowly.
And what do you mean by additional approaches?
So the current intersection of Los Alamitos and Catella, the red light cameras are only initiating heading east and west.
Yeah.
So we're adding north and south.
Oh.
So we will have both directions being covered.
So is so right now we're paying Red Flex 10 grand a month. Is that going to increase since they're going to have to monitor
So
additional
what they
cameras?
do is they come out and they do an assessment of every intersection, and they will let you know based on the flow of traffic of whether or not it would be cost beneficial for your city to add an additional approach based on volume of traffic to ensure that the cost of their leasing would be more than covered by the revenue generated from the red light cameras. And so they conducted that assessment at multiple intersections throughout the city, Cerritos and the Boulevard in Catella and Bloomfield. And they deemed that Cerritos and the Boulevard would not because we don't even own all 4 quarters of that intersection, whereas Catella and the Boulevard would, the same as Bloomfield and Catella. Of the 4 directions, we currently only cover 1 direction, which is westbound on Catella at Bloomfield. We are going to add eastbound Catella at Bloomfield only, so there'll only be east and west once that is complete, not north and south.
What do you, maybe this is a question for Chet, but do you know what we net out? So we have the red light cameras, we have certain amount of revenues from red lights, we have certain amount of expenditures, red flex 10 grand, that's an easy one. Do you know about what we net out each month?
Off the top of my head, I don't. I would imagine that number is going to fluctuate when you incorporate over the course of the year of having the downtime when we're not generating the revenue, and which is why this topic of discussion came up in the first place. It's the same thing that comes up with traffic citations, because we've had police aid vacancies that were not there that normally generate. In the past, in the budget, you would see a higher number, but because of those vacancies, we've not had people out there enforcing that. And the one person we do have qualified out in the field to do traffic enforcement has to backfill for one of the internal spots of a police aid that was not occupied in records. Whenever they take breaks, whenever they need replacement, we have to pull that person from the field. We just finished backgrounds in the 25th of this month. We will finally, the first time since I've been here, that we'll have every police aid position filled.
I'd just like to add on to that. We can actually do some backwards math to figure out what exactly the monthly generated number off of a camera is. I just want to state for the record, and this is important, I know that we're getting into the math of, approaches and how much it generates and such, but, and I think the chief would agree with me, the reason for these red light cameras is safety. First and foremost, this isn't about revenue generation. This isn't about can we add an approach and gain another $100,000. This is about how exactly we slow down traffic as it approaches that intersection. By adding these additional approaches, we do get into a realm where everybody eventually, the first 2 months it's going to be a free-for-all. Everyone will be getting tickets left and right. The idea is that by the time we get 3 or 4 months down the road, that everybody who drives through that intersection is going to think twice before trying to run a red light. And that's really kind of the goal here.
If I can add one thing, whenever there's a new approach done, the first 30 days is warnings only. So when they get a violation, they'll mail a warning to them, just as an educational component. We're going to add new signs in all directions, letting them know that the red light is in place. The first 30 days, if they get a violation, a warning is sent to the resident saying, hey, by the way, that's a red light camera approach. Don't do this again in the future, before actual citations are issued.
Do we send those mailings from here, or do we use that third party to send those mailings?
The third party will eventually get the capture. They send it here for us to verify the information in the system, and then it will be mailed out to their home, and they pay the violation through the mail, or they can set a date to go to court to contest it. Sometimes we'll even have them come into the front desk of the police department if the person in the photo is not the person who's actually behind the wheel.
Thank you.
Further questions? So, what are we doing anything with
Yes.
these additional appropriations?
I would ask for a move to approve the additional appropriations, and then, or I'm sorry, Wendy. Now I believe I'm a city clerk. I'm sorry. Go right ahead.
So the staff is seeking a motion to approve the appropriations as listed on page 12 of the PowerPoint.
I'll move it.
A second.
Is this a roll call, or is it a,
All in favor?
all in favor? Aye.
I'll abstain.
Due to a lack of financial transparency, no.
Let's see. Okay, discussion item 13A. This is Apartment Row name change. Renaming of Apartment Row neighborhood by surveying the residents of Apartment Row with 3 alternatives and a write-in option. Can we get a report on that?
Of course, sir. And I'll briefly run through this, and then if Dr. Noda can tell me if I've missed anything. Earlier this year, Councilwoman Dowie had asked staff, and was seconded, to actually look at the name Apartment Row and whether or not it was something that could be changed. The staff came up with a survey option where They would provide 3 of these names that have been listed here, as well as a spot for individuals to write in their suggestions, and then ultimately bring that information back to the council to make a decision as to the renaming of that area in town.
That is correct. So in your report here, we have offered 5 different options. These are options that we've heard from various community members in the city. And so we're asking for 3, the council to choose 3 of the options. And then, of course, like Chet said, we'll have a write-in option. Apartment Row is the densest neighborhood in the city. It, you know, has roughly, I'm trying to look at here, 4,000, I think, residents in there. So basically, the survey will go from April 1 to May 31st. We have, I think there's an option to extend it a little bit more. And so, but right now, the plan is to have it run for a couple months. Again, we're gonna just survey the residents of Apartment Row. I just want to clarify that. This will not be a city-wide survey. This will just be a survey with the residents of Apartment Row. We have the capability of doing that. And so once the survey is done, we will tabulate it and come back and to a future council meeting. And then we will have council ultimately decide.
Can I ask, or just add one additional comment? One of the reasons for doing this now, and thank you, Councilmember Dowie, is that we're in the throes right now of actually starting to do some of the neighborhood signage development. And so if this is something that the council is looking to take on, this is the perfect opportunity to do so before we start actually making signs.
How do you suggest that we select 3?
Is there a general, well, see, look at me. I'm just trying to be a city clerk today. So I'm going to allow the city clerk to please tell us how to do this.
Should I just, each council member vocalize what they would like, and then you tabulate? And
I believe there are 3 suggested ones within the staff report.
There's 5.
There's 5.
There's
Yeah.
5.
Do you want to?
It's up to you, Mayor. You can ask for a motion for the 3 favorites and take them one at a time, or we can call them out one by one and have everyone vote on them.
Can we have discussion on this? Just, I'd like to ask a couple questions. These 5 names, where did these start from? This was the write-in survey?
No, so one of them there, I believe it is City Garden. So we tried to look to see how Apartment Row came up with the name Apartment Row, look through the historical files and everything. We didn't find anything, right? The only thing we found in some writings was they named that, and again, I think I put it in here somewhere, that some of the records we have here, they called it City Gardens. There were some records that we have, the aerial one's called City Gardens in 1924. So that's one of the options there, City Gardens, if anyone feels historical, right?
No.
Cottonwood Cove is a few members of our traffic commission has expressed their desire to be named Cottonwood Cove. Cottonwood Place is, again, I believe a few members of our, and Park Place was, I heard from a few members of our planning commission and our recreation commission, right? And again, we just heard another one here, Midtown was, again, so most of the names here I got by talking to the commissions in the city.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you. That's what I want to know. I don't live in Apartment Row, but I would think that the residents of Apartment Row might, have a thought. And you had mentioned surveying that. How are we going to survey? Like mail or emails like we did with the parking permit?
That is correct. So the survey will be online via online survey, but the notification will go out via mailer, via door hanger, the weekly e-newsletter, social media. We go through the whole gamut of notifying people to get onto this, the online survey and voice their opinion. And like the city manager stated, that this will also coincide with the neighborhood entry signage. So then at the same time, for instance, in this particular case with Apartment Row, they will get to choose which name they would like, and there's also that fourth option, which is a write-in option. Then they will also have 2 or 3 options on how that signage will be placed for that specific neighborhood of apartment row, like the design of the actual signage, and also placement of where they would like that.
All for the residents' feedback.
That is correct.
Okay. And then, so on the survey, it's these 5 options plus a write-in if they all get together and
No,
think
we're
something else is.
We're asking for 3 options, so council will discuss which 3 options they would like out of the 5 options that's in the report. So those 3 will go to the survey with the 4th one as a write-in option.
Got it. Okay, wonderful. Thank you.
Why don't I just poll? Does anybody want to see city gardens on the survey?
Can I give a little bit of history?
Oh, sure.
Just, in Los Al, we have a lot of our streets and neighborhoods named after our history. Los Alamitos, Little Cottonwood. So we've got the Cottonwood. That makes a lot of sense. Carrier Row is named after the aircraft carriers because of the base. Farquhar is named after one of our founding families. Green is named after one of our founding families. Labradette Park is named after another founding family. Orville Lewis is named after a former police officer. Even Catella, that was named from one of the original sugar beet farmers. He was settling his farm and needed street names, so his daughters were Kate and Ella, and hence we have Catella. So there's some meaning behind a lot of our streets and a lot of our neighborhoods. So I do like keeping in kind of that theme because it means something rather than just city gardens, because that's an offshoot of Hawaiian Gardens.
Thank you.
So, I would just like having some more of this is why we named it, or this is why these were the options, is because they have relevance to our city and our history.
Well, I'm a fan of Midtown specifically because it's a complement to Old Town. We've got Old and New Dutch Haven. We've got Highlands and Rossmore Highlands. We've got all of the college, northeast and whatever. So that is personally why I'm a fan of Midtown. It just kind of makes sense, and it is the central location of the city. And I live in the neighborhood, so.
I agree. I like Midtown as well.
And I do not like city gardens. I'm sorry. If you just Google complexes that have the word garden in them, going right back to apartment row. So,
All right, well, I like Midtown, so it seems like we have support for Midtown, at least 3 of us. City Gardens, seems like that's out. Cottonwood Cove, any support for that?
That sounds like a neighborhood or an HOA to me.
it does.
It sounds like, well, we live in Cottonwood
A
Cove.
gated community.
Cottonwood Place, I'm okay with. I like Cottonwood, I'm just not sure of the 2 ending
Yeah.
names.
Okay, so-
I like the idea of Cottonwood too.
Yeah, Midtown I like. If we did it Uptown, we'd have a song, but that's okay. And then Park Place just sounds like a Monopoly board game. So,
Councilmember Murphy, do you want to provide any input?
I like Cottonwood just because it represents for the Cottonwood Park, but I don't like the cove or the place. So if there's a way that we can, combine a few names together, I don't know, somehow Midtown and Cottonwood together, then I think that would be my preference.
Can we do Cottonwood with a write-in? Like Cottonwood, and then you write in what the suffix would be?
Cottonwood Commons.
Cottonwood Commons. No. I mean, you could write that in, but can we do that and then have a complete write-in? Is that a?
Sounds like we agree on the Cottonwood part. Like Cottonwood something.
Somebody out there is gonna have a good ending. It ain't up here at the moment.
Can we do Cottonwood Cove, Cottonwood Place, a Cottonwood blank, and Midtown, and then a full write-in? I know that's given a lot of choices, but I think our residents can handle
I would
it.
rather leave Cottonwood Cove out.
True.
I particularly don't like Cove. So if we went Cottonwood Place, Midtown, Cottonwood with a blank, and then
Just a pure blank.
just a pure blank,
Sounds good to me.
there you go. Doesn't require a motion or anything, right? Just,
I'll take a motion, please.
Well, you got your motion.
I'll move it.
You can't move it, you can second it. I moved it. I said, you have your motion, so you can second my motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, now we have council announcements. I'm just gonna do what I,
Oh, no.
One more, sir.
okay, yeah. The neighborhood parking permit and street sweeping survey results. The City of Los Alamitos is seeking the community's feedback on the current neighborhood permit parking and street sweeping schedule. The online survey was conducted from October 2023 to January 19th, 2024. Several public workshops were held to gain additional feedback. I guess at this point, if we can get a staff report.
Thank you, sir, and we'll turn that over to Mr. Noda.
All right, thank you. So as the mayor has stated, we've been doing a neighborhood permit parking and street sweeping survey for the past several months. And we have gone what I've called a road show. So we've gone to the different commission to conduct open workshops. So we've had several members of the community come in to, one, see the results of the survey, and also to put in additional feedback or pass on additional feedback. So tonight, we wanted to share with you the street sweeping survey and provide a little insight on what we found out during the past several months. So the general overview is right now, we're going to tackle this. The one on the left is a permit parking requirement. So these are the 4 areas in the city that currently have a permit parking system: Old Town West, Old Town East, Carrier Row, Greenbrook, and of course Woodcrest. There was some confusion because in the survey, people thought we were going to basically place permit parking in the entire city. That's not the case. It was to basically say, A, if you have a permit parking system in your neighborhood, such as Old Town West, do you like it? Or B, if you don't have a permit parking system in your town, do you need it, right? And then, of course, over there to the right is our current street sweeping schedule, right? So I'm not going to go over it by neighborhood, but again, one of the questions there was a lot of our neighborhoods, the streets are swept on both sides of the street on the same day. So we would ask, like, do you like it that it's swept on the same day? Do you want it like one side of the street, the even addresses on one day, the odd addresses on the other day? Apartment row is pretty much like that. If you don't mind, I'm still going to call it apartment row since it's still called apartment row. But one side's on one day, another side's on another day, but it's a bi-weekly, and do you want it every week? So there were certain questions on the survey to do that. Why did you ask that we decided to do this street sweeping and neighborhood survey? Before I begin and show you we have to do this every 5 years. And so last time we did this, of course, was 5 years ago. So that's why we're bringing it about. And again, I think it's great that we do it every 5 years. We have to always get our residents' feedback on the services that we provide. So we hit our 5-year mark, and so here we are asking for their results, for their feedback. I know it's small, hopefully you have it there, but question 1 was, which neighborhood do you currently reside in? And so when the survey was pushed out, we did place a map of the different neighborhoods in the city. And so you can see here that apartment row was the largest one that responded, and this is the next one here. They occupied roughly 30% of the response, which is 192. Altogether, 635 residents participated on the online survey. I'd like to say that for our city, that is an excellent response rate. That is an excellent, excellent response rate. And so again, it's a great response rate. So again, apartment row is 30%. Carrier Row came in at approximately 12% or 76. College Park North was 11. Country Square had 9. Greenbrook had 41. Highlands had 110. New Dutch Haven had 47. Old Dutch Haven had 41. Again, I'm not going to read every one, but Parkwood had 7. Suburbia had 27, etc. So again, for a total of 635 response to this survey. So the first question here was, how do you feel about the current service for both street sweeping and parking enforcement? So out of the 635, there were some that did not respond, but 628 did respond. Roughly 65 or 66% or 413 said it works fine. All right, we don't have an issue. But if you look there, 77 plus 138, which is 215, so 34% said that it could be better or needs to be changed. When we first went out and did this to the commissions, they wanted a breakdown of each neighborhood because every neighborhood might have different reasons why. So as you can see on the right there, I broke it down there. So apartment row, out of the 190 response, 80 of them, or 42%, it said that it could be better or needs to be changed. Again, we're not going to go over every single one. I'm just going to highlight a few. Old Town West and East, out of 66, 42 of them said, or 64% said that it could be better, needs to be changed. What else we got here? Trying to look for a large number. Greenbrook, 41 responded, 14 of it. 14 out of the 41, 34% said, again, it could be better, needs to be changed. So again, we did have the breakdown there, and I think some of the comments there was dependent on the neighborhood and what their proximity was. So like, for instance, I highlighted, let's see here, which is Woodcrest, 6 out of 8, which is 75%. And some of the comments that they had on the survey was because it was in close proximity to the school, right? The school pickup, the school drop-off, school parking. So, but then you look at like Old Dutch Haven, which is, if you're not aware, that's kind of like right behind the Vaughn Shopping Center over there. Out of 41, four out of 41, so 10%, because they're kind of isolated. They're not, Vaughn's got a huge shop parking lot, so they don't have any spillover, et cetera. So again, it depends on what is currently next to that neighborhood. Next question here. How do you feel about the current sweeping schedule in your neighborhood? This one kind of shocked me because 82% said they're actually okay with it, right? And again, it breaks it down over here. Apartment row, 192 responded, 29 said it could be better or change, but overall it was good. The biggest complaint, again, in the comment section was they would like street sweeping to be done after trash pickup. That's the biggest one, right? So there are certain neighborhoods in the city that do have that. They love it, and they actually said in the comment, please don't change it. And then you have other people say, no, I think it'd be great if we could do it after trash pickup. So but overall, like I said, 82% said they're fine with the street sweeping schedule that we have. Question 4 is, if your neighborhood has sweeping on both sides of the street on the same day, it should be, and again, look at here, most of them, 65.4% said that it should be on the, leave it as is. They're very happy with what they have, right? And then, of course, the blue part, which is swept on a different date, which is 30%, okay? But again, swept on a different day is because the trash, they want it after the trash pickup. Here, we're just kind of talking about how many cars you have in your household. The majority of the homes that probably surveyed in our neighborhoods are single-family homes. So as you can see, the biggest marker there is 2 to 3, right? And so that was roughly 75% of the response.
With one having 7 or more?
And we asked, what type of housing do you live in? Again, single-family homes were the largest. People that responded to the survey was 65%. And of course, second was multi-unit, which is apartment, townhomes, duplex, or condominiums, and that's at 35%. How many on-site parking spaces does your household have available? And as you can see here, most of them have parking spaces for 2 to 3, which is 50% approximately. Some have 0 to 1, which is 24%, and 4 to 5, which is 20%. Then we asked, where do you typically park your car while you're at home? Again, the majority of the response is off the street, in their garage or in their driveway, with 37.8 or 38% saying that they park it on the street. And again, as you can imagine, the single-family homes, which is most of the neighborhoods, are stating that they park on their driveway or in their garage, but apartment row is the biggest answer to this, where they park on the street. Then we asked, when do you find it most difficult to park on your block? Morning, midday, afternoon, evening, overnight, not applicable. and the biggest response was the most difficult time to park was, of course, evening when they came home from work, which is 31%, 200. We had a lot of passionate residents that came in at our workshop stating they lived in the apartment row complex about how difficult it is to park in their neighborhood. And you know, they talked about commercial vehicles parking on the street. They talk about vehicles that aren't registered. We even one gentleman brought in that his neighbor runs a car rental outfit out of his house or out of his apartment, so he has like 8 or 9 vehicles parked on the street. So they were very passionate about parking.
Yeah.
Number 10, what is the major reason for parking to be difficult in your neighborhood? School traffic, business traffic, my neighbors have too many cars, not enough street parking, or others. Others, as you can see, runs the gamut here. They got the highest response. And looking at the comments, it's commercial vehicles, it's everything you can imagine, right?
Living next to a fire station?
Yes, right. It's about the neighborhood's too dense. People aren't parking their cars in the garage, you know, stuff like that. So every answer you could think of was contributed to this. Consider your current residential parking situation. Which of the following statement applies to your parking experience? You know, and so again, my neighbors are reserving spots, so that means they're going out there and like placing cones or trash cans to reserve a spot. So you have a little bit of that.
4th of July.
Probably. I frequently see cars that are parked for a long period of time without moving. So again, we had one gentleman who was very passionate about his neighbors parking cars for weeks and weeks and weeks on end. And we're like, are they getting a street sweeping ticket? And they're like, yes, they are, but they won't move it. So again, you know, I frequently see cars that are parked on the street during sweep hours. That's one of them. I feel lack of parking force in my neighborhood. There's some questions there. And we talked about permit parking, and if you have a permit parking system, you have to identify that your car is legally allowed to park there, like whether it's a sticker or a placard, and a lot of people don't want that.
What, a sticker or a placard?
Both, to put on their car to identify. That's
Not a sticker, but I do
yeah,
a placard.
right. So it says here, I am uncomfortable with a permit parking.
That's
Okay.
interesting.
How satisfied are you with the current process for applying for a permit? So right now, applying for the permit is you have to go into the police department to apply for a permit parking, and you're allowed, and it's free. You know, you're allowed to get one. I believe it's up to 3. I think, and then you also have guest parking as well that you can have. And if you have a special event, you could come in and request for 1 day guest parking for up to 20. So, but so basically, you can see here is satisfied, neutral, not applicable, or unsatisfied. Basically, the unsatisfied, the comment is they would love to have an online permitting system. Again, to get a permit, they have to actually come into the police department to get it. They would love to have an online system in place. And that's the very next question. Would you like to have an online permit system, right? Some says yes, some said no. Right? But again, the ones that said yes is yes, they would like recreation vehicles, oversized permit, guest permit parking, and everything. So our code enforcement is very active in terms of making sure that large recreational vehicles aren't parked in extended time. And so I think an online permitting system would assist them in that. But again, we currently don't have that in place. We're looking into it. The last one here is a program timeline. So we've done our workshops. This will, our traffic commission has requested to bring this specific presentation back to the traffic commission because they wanted to see the breakdown of the neighborhoods. So we are scheduled to do that in a few weeks. That's, what are we in March? So it's April. But right now we are gonna work with our traffic engineer and, again, talk with our vendors, whether it's our trash, our street sweeping, and of course, the police department to formulate a plan. That will take a few months for us to do, right? I would say approximately 3 to 4 months. Then we will present this. The body that kind of oversees this is a traffic commission. So we'll go back to traffic commission to do the presentation of whether we change or don't change what the plan is. I am certain they will have comments for us to revise the plan. So we will bring it back, do our revisions, and ultimately, if we have to, we come to city council. So the reason why I put city council there is our street sweeping schedule is tied to our municipal code. And so for us to change our street sweeping schedule, we have to come back to city council. So that's why city council is there at the end. So again, we are still quite a few months away from bringing it back. But again, we are going through the process, and you'll see it at an upcoming city council meeting for your review. Thank you. Any questions? I'm here.
I do have a question.
Yes.
Is there a way to do like a fake rollout of this is what we're gonna do? Because I find that we get really good response when people feel like they don't have a choice anymore. Because everybody that I've spoken to personally that has street sweeping on both sides hates it. They're like, why can't you just pick a side? Where am I supposed to park my car? Because most people don't park in their garages. They have stuff in their garages and they park on the street or in their driveway. So is there a way to do like, or just more education or information out of it? Because I'm telling the truth, right? If we actually make a decision, that's when everything will be like, ah! So is there a way to make it more real quicker? Because I heard about it, but of course I would hear about it. And 600, although I know you say that's outstanding, that still seems very, very low when it's going to impact everybody.
I'd have to internally talk that through, but I think we could do, what I'm hearing is, could we do a pilot program, right, for a certain few months, and then come back and, review it and see if it works, and during that pilot program, residents can come in to either voice their pleasure or displeasure of it. I think we could, but we'd have to talk about that internally a little bit. Yes.
Take your time. Just, in my experience with things that have such a finality, the more time people can get, or if they can see it in advance, I think it's helpful. My personal opinion.
I have one comment on the street sweeping changing to after trash pickup. About a year and a half ago, half of the city at least was moved to a Friday trash pickup. So I'm not sure if I'd feel comfortable going back to the trash hauler, because that was their request, going back to the trash hauler since they're separate entities and asking them to move, so the street sweeping does their thing.
Some of the feedback that I got from residents in Parkwood apartment, the portion of Parkman Road that I represent in the Highlands, is they really appreciate being asked their opinion. So thanks for all this. I'd love to share this with them, the results of it. I think I shared a few emails with you a week or so ago. They were even following up with me asking, what are the results of this? They really wanted, they wanted to see the results. So thanks for just putting this together. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah. I just want to say thank you. I think, as you said, depending on different areas, especially in my area, College Park North, my understanding from speaking with my neighbors is it doesn't really impact us that much. It's one day on a Friday, which is probably easier for us to just do it one day than versus having to do 2 days, switching from one side to the other. And all of us have garages, so most of our vehicles are either in the driveway, and we've also come with an innovative way of parking on the area between the sidewalk and the street. So, but I know just impacting my neighbor. But I just want to say thank you for doing this, because it does provide a lot of understanding about what's going on throughout our whole city in regards to that. So thank you.
Just have a question, Ron. With respect to the plan going back to the commission and then back to you and back to the commission, is this primarily just for the street sweeping aspect of it, or could we see a change in the permit policy, especially in areas that do not have one?
So there could be a change, but right now, just the overview of the survey, there is no neighborhood that is requesting a permit parking system. Like, you might have a few here or there, but no, if there's a change in the permit parking system, if there is change in the way we process permit parking, again, we have to work with the police department. They are the ones that issue that out. Yes, that would all go to the traffic commission.
Well, I guess my question is, we all acknowledge that parking is a problem in Apartment Row. Do we have a plan, or are we thinking about a plan on addressing the problem?
Right, and Ron, if I could take this one. So there are a couple areas in town where it seems very apparent that there's the ability to pick up more parking spaces by just, I'll call it, changing the design of streets and such. And so that is something that we are currently looking at internally. And that's more of while it does involve the residents in terms of how exactly they want street sweeping to happen or parking enforcement to happen, it really comes down to a function of what exactly the infrastructure on certain streets look like. And so where there are places where we can pick up parking by making simple changes to, call it the width of a street, or taking away what I'll call, or adding
Striping.
Thank you, striping. There's different ways where we can increase parking. So those are things that we're looking at independently of this survey, but then ultimately will be presented to both the Traffic Commission and the City Council.
Is one of the approaches that can be reviewed is angled parking? Would that allow for further?
That's exactly where we're looking, is that the city has a number of streets that are significantly wide in the residential areas, and sometimes they lend themselves to speeding. You can slow down the speed by adding angled parking, and then it does, by nature of adding those spaces, increase the number of available parking spots. So yes, definitely that'll be one of the tools that we'll look at.
I have a kind of random question loosely connected to this. In apartment row, obviously parking's an issue. It's too dense. It's going to be an issue. If somebody owns a parcel of land there, they knock down whatever residential building is there, put in a parking lot, two-story parking structure, is that area zoned for that?
No.
Can't put in a parking lot?
It would have to be, sorry, the song of Paved Paradise, put up a parking lot is in my head. No, it's, no, nobody wants that. So the interesting part about zoning and how exactly we take on that issue, and again, it's something that has been done in a lot of different jurisdictions, we would have to identify places where you can actually get, I'll call it the right in and out take. There needs to be multiple entrances, multiple exits, which makes this incredibly hard for an area like Apartment Row. Now, if you were to be able to cobble together 5, 6, 7 pieces of property together and then be able to develop something, that might work. The downside then becomes that the properties that are directly adjacent to it lose a lot of value. And so obviously that's why it doesn't happen very often.
I do have one additional concern. There are instances throughout the year where there is scheduled trash pickup on a Thursday, but then it's pushed due to a holiday onto the Friday. And I know some of my neighbors have voiced concerns where, why is there street sweeping on a Friday when they're going around the trash cans, and yet they're still observing by giving tickets to the vehicles that are still parked on the street when they aren't obviously sweeping every part of the street because they're going around a lot of the trash receptacles that are still present there throughout the day.
So that's part of, we've heard that too through the survey. So that's part, again, working with our vendors to try, when we come up and formulate a plan. So again, I'm not quite there yet in terms of meeting with our vendors, but there's several options where, let's say I'm just using your example, we delay the trash by one day. Do we delay the street sweeping by one day as well? But again, we have a lot of ways to go about it. PD is the one that does the parking enforcement. We have to work with them to see if they can bring in personnel on a Saturday, or do we, another one, a resident came in and said, why don't you just skip street sweeping for that day? That makes simple sense, but we have to street sweep to, again, we talked about SB 1383 today about reporting. We have to report our tonnage to the state, and we have a minimum to qualify. If not, we'll get fined. So Again, that's part of formulating the plan, and we'll try to see what we can do, again, for the best of the city.
Councilmember, if I can, just, again, I want to back this up way back to the beginning. This is the first step in what exactly the council ultimately decides to do. So we thought it prudent to get out there, ask residents what exactly their opinion was first, so that we weren't formulating our own opinions about what exactly each neighborhood wanted. So this is a concerted effort to do as much research on the front end so that by the time we're ready to start floating ideas about changes and such, we can say that we've taken into account that input.
No, I appreciate that, but as you know, as council members, we reside in several of these areas, and I know that we have a relationship with a lot of the residents, and we speak with a lot of residents. That's why we're even bringing up concerns that have been brought to our attention. So this is, in my understanding, this is a discussion. So I understand that this is just a preemptive approach that we're taking, but these are just suggestions and just, you know, ideas that have been presented, I assume, to a lot of us who live in the area and speak with, you know, our neighbors about concerns that they have, that maybe they didn't participate in the survey, but it's just, you know, conversation that they may have had. So.
Any further comments? So this is just an item that we receive and file? Correct. Okay, council announcements. At this time, council members may also report on items not specifically described on the agenda that are of interest to the community, provided no action or discussion is taken except to provide staff direction to report back or to place the item on a future agenda. I'm just going to start to my right with Mayor Pro Tem Hasselbrink.
Couple things. I was able to attend a 90th birthday party for one of our longtime residents. She's lived here since 1967, and her and her husband and the old Catholic family that they are raised 7 children here in a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house. Not real big. She just got her driver's license renewed, blessed by the DMV. So if you see a red Cadillac driving down, that's her. She goes to St. Hedwig Mass every day and twice on Saturday. We had a really nice birthday party for her. I put together a little basket of La Salle swag, which she absolutely loved. And it was just kind of neat. They had a bunch of trivia about her life here and everything, so that was really fun. That same night, I went to the Precious Life fundraiser, and that was just phenomenal. I talked to Teresa Murphy, and this was a very, very successful event. The Reef is a great place. It's a little out of the way, but it's a great place to have an event. Lots of money was raised. Somebody even walked away with a puppy. I was threatened with divorce, so I did not walk away with that puppy, but I tried. So that was always fun. And then Saturday night, we were able to honor Shelley Appling as our Citizen of the Year. Shelley's just kind of one of those quiet, involved residents. She's real involved with the La Salle Football Foundation, the museum. She just does all kinds of stuff. They raised 2 boys here. She taught me how to make the mean Chinese chicken salad over at LAYB many years ago. And she's just kind of that ultimate, just under the radar type resident, which we always appreciate. So that was a lot of fun. And then today I attended the Business Roundtable with Michelle Steele. I got some great ideas out there. She's very, very well connected. She does live in Surfside, so she considers this area home. And it's always nice to have a local representative that wants to hear from us. And then I just want to remind everybody about the Spring Carnival on Saturday, March 30th at 9 o'clock over at Cottonwood Park. It's always fun, and I heard rumors that the city manager will be the Easter Bunny this year, so come out just to see that. That's all I got. You're welcome.
Okay, Councilmember Murphy.
Okay, hello, good evening. So I attended the Black Chamber of Commerce. There was a lot of talented entrepreneurs, a lot of insightful discussions, and just a sense of community. I made connections, which was a great opportunity to celebrate Black excellence in business. I attended the League of California Cities Division meeting, where we discussed expanding local control while addressing issues such as homelessness, housing, and public safety. I also was blessed to celebrate International Women's Day at the Orange County Women in Leadership Summit, and I had my eldest daughter accompany me so she can also be inspired by the exceptional female leaders that are dominating several industries throughout the U.S. They also partnered with the Girl Scouts of Orange County, so it gave me a recollection of when my daughters were brownies and daisies, and just to always champion for girls and dream big to make an impact on the world. I attended Janet Wynn's election night watch party for her election for OC supervisors. I was honored to be in attendance at the Hooray for Hollywood Gala in honor of Precious Life Shelter. I also judged several innovative art pieces, including our very own Janet Gallagher's art piece, which she had created during COVID. They were just exceptional. That was held at the multipurpose room in Oak Middle School. And finally, I was thrilled to attend just this weekend Cypress College's 49th Annual Americana Award and fundraiser event, one of the 3 events that my husband is dutifully supposed to attend with me, so this is one of 3 that we will see him in attendance at, and he actually brought a tux this time, so he can go ahead and use that going forward and just change his bow tie, which I've already taken from him because I like men's dressing also. So yeah, that's mostly what I did in the last year, and just recognizing so many exceptional people and residents and businesses from our town of Los Alamitos. So thank you.
Okay, Councilmember Hibbert.
Thank you. Last month's meeting, I attended several events. One of them was Senior Bingo for the first time with my sassy senior neighbor, Miss Martha. Miss Martha, I know you're watching. You and Eddie, hi. It was an excellent program. For my first time going, I had no idea how many people go to Senior Bingo. We did not see your mom there. Maybe next time. But Senior Bingo is where it's at. I was walking around with flyers for Race on the Base, and they were cracking me up, all the reasons why they were not going to do or attend Race on the Base. Anything from hip replacements, knee replacements, walkers, they were cracking me up. They said, girl, you're in the wrong room. But it was super sweet for them to know about what's going on, and several of them are going to come to the event, even though they're not going to participate. So that was fun. I attended a Chamber of Commerce ribbon cutting for direct escrow on Catella, and that was the first Chamber of Commerce ribbon cutting that I've been able to attend, which was great. The business owner and I grew up in the same neighborhood, so we had a lot in common, ironically. I also attended this past weekend the Cypress College Americana Awards, again for the first time. That event was beyond what I had imagined. I'd never been there before. I mean, there was hundreds of people there. It was really incredible. Shelley Appling had the first time that I met her was at the council meeting. I think it was last month when I got to meet her. So talking to people who have been around the neighborhood much longer than I have, nothing but wonderful things to say about her. So congratulations, Shelley. This morning, like the chief had said, the roundtable with Michelle Steele with LoSal stakeholders, that kind of meeting is my jam. Like being on council is like a hobby for me because there's so many other things that I do, whether it's businesses, serve on nonprofits, serve on boards, here locally, nationally, internationally, what that is. So to be in a room with so many different stakeholders who I share something with all of them, whether it's a small business, whether they're running a nonprofit, whether they hold office, there's something that I share with them, and there was something to learn from all of them. So that was, it was an honor to be in that room with all of them. I also attended Congresswoman Michelle Steele's Women of Distinction in Hawaiian Gardens. That was the first time that I had been able to go to City Hall over in Hawaiian Gardens. I've been getting to know those council members over there a little bit more. They're not in Orange County, so I don't see them at as many things, but it was nice to see them honoring so many women from around the area.
afternoon. Did something last month that I'm going to do again this month. I shared my phone number last month and I invited residents to call, and apparently much more people watch these broadcasts than I expected. And I got a lot of phone calls and they want to talk about a lot of things. I was told, I don't care about any of the events that you attend. It doesn't have anything to do with me. I want you to focus on things at my house, where I live, on my streets, things that impact me, which was enlightening, because oftentimes we get up here and we talk about all the events that we went to, and all the phone calls I got, nobody cares. So again, if you want to give me a call, 562-444-6751. Call me, that rings this, 562-444-6751. I also spoke with several parents of students, kids that are possibly interested in getting into civil service or whatnot. I shared with them, I'll share here. I do have a master's degree in public administration. Never thought really that I'd go into public service. I'm more of a business person, but if you're watching this or you know someone who's interested in public service or thinking about pursuing an MPA or just like to get more involved here in town, again, call me, 562-444-6751. Thank you.
Councilmember Adobe.
All right. So I attended the executive committee meeting for ACCOC. The relevance of being a part of ACCOC is they are the Orange County legislative advocate specifically for Orange County. So being a part of that regional board and actually being a member of that board can have significant impacts because it's just for Orange County. A lot of the organizations that we're a part of are more regional. So like SCAG and Cal Cities, they're all of California or Southern California, but ACCOC is specifically Orange County. As well as the OCOG board. I went to the director's meeting for that, and that is also Orange County Council of Government. So again, the relevance is it specifically matters pertinent to Orange County as far as legislation and bills and things that they're doing at the Senate and the Assembly and even at the federal level. I went to the Cal Cities Division meeting because I am on a policy committee for that. Same logic, get you in the room where people are making decisions that will immediately impact our door-to-door. And I also had the distinct pleasure, I do it every year. This year was my easiest one, judging the Weekend of Art, because I brought my daughter with me. And I allowed her to make the hard decisions, and I didn't have the children's category. I'm very grateful for that. I also got to watch us honor Shelley Appling at the Americana. I went to a policy committee meeting for Southern California Association of Governments. I think this year, started specifically asking for reports that come from our mosquito and vectors. We get a monthly report that it be put on our website, and our city clerk has been very gracious in making sure that those get uploaded. And then the same with the library updates. Now, the library updates are not specifically posted on our website, but they're posted to our social media stories, and that's simply because our library is not open yet. So it's still, if you want to go to an activity that's a part of the libraries that we would have access to because they're Orange County, you can still get a snapshot of that until our actual library opens up. That's all I got.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, I attended several meetings and events, but I'm just going to highlight a couple of them. Took a tour of the youth center and met with the staff there, and I was really impressed. And it just reminded me, the services that they provide. My own kids, when they were younger, participated in some summer camps. So I just wanted to raise the attention that, the youth center provides a valuable service to the kids in the area, and any support or attention that we can bring to them is well deserved. I also attended the school district / city working group meeting, and you know, the school district obviously is its own separate entity, but I just wanted to highlight to the community that we do have a great relationship. Councilmember Doby and I, we met for, it was a longer meeting this time, actually, about 2 hours, but we do get a lot of things done with input from the chief. And if there's any areas of concern, you know, with the school district and the city, please note that we do meet on a quarterly basis, and we can raise any concerns there. I also had a meeting with the CEO of Cal Optima that Chet brought up, and I think we highlighted to him the importance of our senior master plan, and how important our seniors are to us, and the services that we would like. So I'm pretty excited. I know that he's offered to give us a tour that we're coordinating, and I'm happy to see where that will be going in terms of partnerships with, or possible partnerships with Cal Optima. And then finally, I would just like to thank both Supervisor Andrew Doe and Michelle Steele. We met separately on 2 occasions, but we talked about similar subject matter, primarily some of the plans we have with respect to partnerships with the base. So that's also very encouraging, and it's good to know that we have some things going forward in that area. And with that, I'll adjourn this meeting at 8:29 p.m.